Joining us. It's our pleasure to welcome now the great Jimmy Failla, host of Fox News, a Saturday Night with Jimmy Failla, and host of Fox Across America with Jimmy Failla. Hey, Jimmy, good to see you, man.
Gerard, good to get the band back together, man.
Absolutely. So, Rhino and I were just talking about guys like you that make your living applying some humor to the political and news landscape. How do you sort through all the content and figure out what you're going to talk about? We were talking about, let me start with this Karen Bass, who's worried about getting her car washed out there in L.A.
It's one of my favorite things in the world because Karen Bass is underqualified to be working in a car wash, to be clear. But I love this Democrat approach to this because she's basically saying only illegal immigrants run car washes.
Right.
Like, every time the Democrats try to touch this issue and sound like they care about Latinos, they actually say something kind of racist. Exactly. It's like, if Trump closes the border, who's going to pick the grapes for my wine? I'm like, I don't know. There are American farmers out there. That's the Democrat approach. You're right to say, like, our show, it needs to be like an hour longer. I'm not asking to work harder, but there's not enough time to squeeze this all in. It's nuts.
All right, what about the great CNN, former CNN journalist, the august, as Tucker Carlson used to call him, Don Lemon? And he goes out on the streets and he starts talking to people, and it's about 2 in when somebody calls him an effing moron. It's just unbelievable. What did he expect?
Well, no, it was amazing to me, but the fact that, like, it was clear that guy had watched Don Lemon's show. So technically speaking, Don Lemon's ratings were twice as high as we all thought. If he had 2 viewers, he might be able to get CNN back on the phone and get a raise. They might bring him back hat in hand. I mean, I love that. That's definitely on my TV show this weekend, by the way, if anybody's interested in seeing it, because there's this thing going on where I think a lot of, specifically people in the media, and CNN would be the best example, MSNBC would be right there with them, because they really don't talk to anybody who doesn't kind of blow smoke up their butt and tell them they're an amazing journalist. They go out into the streets like thinking this is going to go well. And that's my favorite part about it. Like, if you saw Don Lemon ask the woman about sending federal troops to the Bronx, she's like, I'd love that. And Don Lemon was like kind of shocked. He's like, no.
That is
no,
so
you're not
true.
Supposed to. But that's the hook, is they're not talking to anybody but themselves. They're nuts, man.
Yeah, that is so true. Just oblivious. Rhino was talking about that in the last segment there. They're just oblivious to what the public views of them and their perspective and perception of them. And they've got this own sort of calculated view of themselves in their brain, which doesn't match reality. He, remember, of course, famously said that Nikki Haley was too old. As a woman, she was too old to be the president. Is he kidding? Yeah. Yet he's praising the octogenarian Joe Biden.
Yeah. He's saying Nikki Haley, who was like in her 50s, is too old. Meanwhile, he's stumping for Biden, who was in his late hundreds. Okay? I've seen younger faces on money, but there he was. And by the way, anybody listening on SuperTalk that thinks women over 50 are past their prime has never seen my search history. Good night, everybody.
Well, the good people in Mississippi, I can assure you, do not believe that. You well know that. And honestly, most Democrats don't believe that. I don't know what value there was to that statement that Don Lemon thought it would produce, but ultimately it got him fired is what happened over there at CNN. But it's still not doing well. Now, your shows are doing great. I so enjoy them, man. Your humorous perspective on things, it just makes you, I guess, appreciate that, we ought to just look in the mirror sometimes and laugh at ourselves. We take ourselves too seriously. And a lot of these serious comments come out, and I read them here, I recite them here on the air. Don, like I recited the CEO of Cracker Barrel's comments about the remodeling of the stores, and they attempt to sound so serious, and it's like, no, this really isn't serious. What's up with that?
That's the biggest problem I think a lot of comics have, too, is, guys like Jimmy Kimmel and Stephen Colbert give these serious lectures, but, we're comedians. People come to us to not take life seriously. We're supposed to be like that escape hatch, you know?
Right.
And you know how, Gerard, I knew not to take myself seriously? 2 years ago, my identity got stolen, and my credit score went up 44 points. Okay? I was like, oh, I get it. I'm a mess. I'm supposed to be on the air sharing that. But Kimmel and Colbert didn't know that because they broke, like, the number one rule of comedy. It's like comedy's not supposed to have a political party. Comedy is a party. Like, if you were throwing a party, you really wouldn't care who anybody voted for as long as they were cool, you know? You're never going to tell a, good-looking group of women they couldn't come in because you didn't vote the right way.
So
but that's
true.
the thing these guys do, except they're not turning away good-looking women. They're inviting in women who have a bigger Adam's apple than I do.
So true. So the president sends in the National Guard to Washington, D.C., and Mayor Muriel Bowers, who opposed this initially, you remember she's known for being one of the first to totally embrace the Black Lives Matter movement, went and painted the Black Lives Matter out on the street, this huge mural. And now she's doing a little bit of a mea culpa and saying, wait, it does appear that the crime situation is improved by the mere presence of these guys with camouflage on. What do you think?
Amen. And that's the biggest problem they have in Chicago is that, if Trump goes into Chicago and cleans up the city, then they kind of have to acknowledge that it needed cleaning up, meaning they didn't do it. So to Muriel Bowser's credit, she said this was unnecessary and it was a federal overreach, but she quickly came to realize people wanted this to happen. So I at least give her credit for being wrong, but being willing to adapt to what the people wanted. But most of the party won't do that. This is the biggest problem we have right now. Every kid in this country grew up knowing we had to support the police. If you were a kid in this country, you played two games. You played cops and robbers and cowboys and Elizabeth Warren. Okay, you played those two games. But when you played cops and robbers, you knew the cops were the good guys and the robbers were the bad guys. The Democrats have taken this approach that maybe the cops are the problem. Now, nobody believes that in their right mind, but that's what they've tried to run with. That's why they want to oppose Trump on this issue, because people are realizing we obviously need the cops. You know that. I know that. It's crazy.
Yeah. All right, so what about the Karen at the Phillies-Marlins game? Little did she know she'd be world famous after that incident. How about that?
It was amazing. If you look at that woman, right, the hair and the glasses, I'm pretty sure the last time we saw her, she was on TV changing the Cracker Barrel logo. Now, everyone keeps saying we can't find this woman. That Cracker Barrel headquarters, it's the same woman with the same glasses. And that's exactly who acts that way, Gerard.
That's exactly right. Oh, my gosh. I just couldn't believe that she got in this father's face with the child right next to him.
And you know this. When a baseball flies into the stands, it's anybody's ball game.
Correct.
But once it goes into a kid's mitt, it is settled law.
That's right.
It's over.
That's right. Absolutely.
And the idea she didn't know that. Crazy. But she'd give her credit for one thing. She found the one Philadelphia Phillies fan who wasn't ready for a violent confrontation. Everybody else in Philly's ready to throw a beer on you and beat you up. She found the one guy who was like, I don't want a problem.
That's exactly right. I mean, it is his young son next to him, just aghast at what's going on with this adult in his father's face like that. Unbelievable. She also favored Liz Warren a bit, too, didn't she, Jimmy?
That's funny. Yes. Anytime you want to bash Liz Warren, it's fine by me. Unlike Liz, I have no reservations.
Unbelievable. Is there a bigger fraud in politics than Liz Warren? Wasn't it great when Trump pointed out she's like 1/8,9,000th Indian or something like that?
That was my favorite. He goes, they call her Pocahontas. She's a sick woman.
And then he determined he had more Indian blood in him than she did, which is just incredible. But this is the fraud we see that sort of underpins the Democrat Party. You may have seen Jasmine Crockett. She may be the dumbest person in the entire Congress that says, no, law enforcement is not there to prevent crime. They're there to solve crime. What the heck is this all about?
It's the craziest thing in the world. It's like, you know, if a cop is in a robbery in progress, he doesn't say, hey, you guys go ahead and finish up, and then I'll start my little investigation.
That's right.
Like, you got to realize Jasmine Crockett is only there to make AOC look smart. They want AOC to run in 2028. The only way it's going to work is if they put Jasmine Crockett on every day between now and then. And you'll hear AOC and be like, oh, she's not, you know, maybe she's not so dumb. That's
awesome.
the problem. Jasmine Crockett is so dumb, she thinks Aunt Tifa is one of her relatives. She has no idea.
Jimmy Failla, host of Fox News Saturday Night with Jimmy Failla, and host Fox Across America with Jimmy Failla. Appreciate it, Jimmy. Really enjoyed it, man. Thanks a lot.
You're the best, Gerard. Let's do it again soon.
Yes, sir. We're coming right back in the Element Wealth Studio.